This is Homo gallisparus. It was said to have been found somewhere in Ireland in 1973. It's about 9 feet tall and fully grown, weighs over 1,500 pounds. It appears to be a combination of a chicken, a human being, and several other species. This is the Montauk Monster, the carcass of an unknown species of animal that washed up on the shore of Long Island in 2008. Several passers-by managed to capture pictures of it, but before it could be retrieved and identified, it vanished. This is The Anguished Man, a painting said to be haunted. Legend has it that the artist mixed the paint with his own blood, and when it was finished, took his own life. The owner says that when he hung it in his house, he heard crying and moaning, and once saw the ghostly figure of a man. How does it feel to know that things like this are out there? Does it make the world scarier? Does it set you on edge, make you feel afraid to go outside? That definitely seems like the reasonable response. After all, you probably don't want to encounter any of these scary, unexplained things, these anomalies yourself, do you? Or is there some inexplicable part of you that, knowing these anomalies might be out there, wants nothing more than to find them? Really quick, before the video starts, I just want to tell you about Foundry behind the machines. There is a lot that goes into making this show, and a lot you will probably never see. But our humans, bit by bit, have started to share that process. Sometimes they'll stream their research, long before a video ever makes it into the pipeline. Sometimes they'll make forum posts, brainstorming an idea. Thumbnails are one of the funnest things to work on here, and they do a lot of that too. And sometimes they'll just hang out and play games and stuff. It's all right there in our Discord server, available to anyone who supports Foundry anywhere. You could become a YouTube member, you could join our Patreon community, you could even subscribe right in Discord itself. All of them cost exactly the same amount and will get you access to anything and everything behind the machines. Foundry has always been about more than just video content. We make these videos to inspire and to be inspired. A big thanks to everyone who joins us in that process. We couldn't make this show without you. Okay, thanks so much for listening. Now, on to the video. The Anguished Man is a real painting. I can't tell you whether it's actually haunted or not, or even whether the story about the bloody paint and the suicide is true, but the painting itself, that exists. The Montauk Monster is, likewise, a real specimen. According to zoologists, it's also probably just a hairless, waterlogged raccoon corpse. But without the body itself, it's impossible to know with 100% certainty. Homo gallisparus is the only one of these three that I can guarantee you for an absolute fact isn't even real. That's because it's a work of fiction. Most people actually know it by the name SCP-3199. If you're not familiar, the SCP Foundation is a sort of make-believe, shadowmate government-like organization dedicated to containing anomalies like these and protecting the public from them. Think Men in Black, but way, way weirder. SCP-3199 is just one of thousands that they keep watch over. Murderous statues, unkillable reptiles, rifts in reality. They even have at least one god in there, if you can believe it. But no matter how fantastic they may seem, every anomaly is documented with the same level of painstaking scientific rigor. They're described and measured. Their containment procedures are specified. There are interview transcripts, access logs, all sorts of documentation that feels less like a story and more like a dispassionately written government dossier. The SCP community knows that the things that they're writing about are impossible and equally impossible to believe in. And yet, here we all are, all the same, playing along. That's the point. That's the fantasy SCP is providing. That it could be real. You'd think this kind of make-believe would be pretty niche, but somehow SCP is unbelievably popular. There are entire YouTube channels based on just this body of work alone, artists whose entire careers come from SCP. In fact, this sort of play is so fun, you see it in tons of other places too. Although SCP itself is very clear that it's all just fiction, it has a lot in common with a whole genre called unfiction, where the audience pretends along with the author that the story is real. Works like The Sun Vanished or The Mystery Flesh Pit National Park invite you to be a part of that story. r/NoSleep has plenty of stories that are written to feel like more than just stories, like that one about those mysterious staircases in the woods. There's also plenty of normal fiction that engages in this sort of make-believe as well. The X-Files, Men in Black, Warehouse 13, the Magnus Archives, even Gravity Falls, none of them pretend to be true, but they all indulge the fantasy that there's something out there, if you can just find it. I probably don't need to tell you what this all means. This sort of fiction, the way it tends to blur the lines of reality and unreality, the sheer popularity of that experience, all point to a very real impulse. Humans want to believe in this sort of stuff. They want it to be real. Cryptozoologists, paranormal investigators, conspiracy theorists, I think they're all actually engaged in the same sort of imaginative play you see in all of these stories. It is just extremely fun to imagine these things out there in the world, these anomalies. I think it's part of why you read SCP or watch ghost hunting shows. You want to be part of this big, heart-pounding game of make-believe. Unlike in the stories, though, I think this goes beyond make-believe. I think a lot of the people most deeply engaged with this stuff really are earnestly searching for the truth. And they could be right. Who am I to say that there's no such thing as ghosts or Bigfoot or mind control? After all, when was the last time you saw a ghost hunter not find any evidence of a ghost? In a way, they're taking the dream to its ultimate conclusion. To me, it looks like humans want to do more than just fantasize about a world of anomalies. You want to live in one. In December 1938, South African museum curator Marjorie Courtney Latimer received a phone call from her friend Hendrik Ghusn, the captain of the fishing trawler Nareen. She'd asked the local fishermen to let her know if they ever caught anything unusual. Ghusn had found something that he thought might just fit the bill. "I picked away at the layers of slime to reveal the most beautiful fish I had ever seen," she wrote later. "It was 5 feet long, a pale mauvey blue with faint flecks of whitish spots. It had an iridescent silver blue-green sheen all over. It was covered in hard scales, it had 4 limb-like fins, and a strange puppy dog tail. It was such a beautiful fish, more like a big china ornament. But I didn't know what it was." When she was finally able to get the fish looked at by an ichthyologist, her friend J.L.B. Smith, he instantly recognized it as a coelacanth, a fish that up until that day had been thought to have been extinct for 66 million years. What I think is really interesting about this story is that nobody actually knew that the fish was anomalous until they could get an expert to tell them that it was. If it had been caught by someone else, someone who didn't have a museum curator for a friend, it would have just been an unusual-looking fish. The coelacanth is incredibly rare to find now. How unlikely must it have been then for someone to have the opportunity to know that they've caught one? How many had been caught before that and just dismissed as an unusual-looking fish? It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many things around you are actually incredibly strange, but you just don't have the background to know it? You could see a bird thought to be extinct for hundreds or thousands of years in your area tomorrow, and unless you're a bird enthusiast, how would you ever even know? Like, look at this tree. It's kind of interesting looking, right? A bit majestic. But it's not like that weird. If you came across it in the bristlecone forests of California's White Mountains, you probably wouldn't think that much of it. it looks more or less like all the other trees there. You probably wouldn't guess that this tree is the oldest known living unitary organism in the world. It's called Methuselah, and it's thought to be nearly 5,000 years old. It's so secret that its exact location is kept a secret from the public. How about these honey mushrooms from Malheur National Forest in Oregon? Pretty unremarkable, right? Well, take a peek beneath the soil and you see this. The mushrooms that you see on the surface are just a tiny fragment of a fungal mass that covers 3.5 square miles and weighs 35,000 tons. The largest organism on Earth by both area and mass. And you just thought it was a mushroom. And this rock, it's kind of cool, a little sparkly. If you found it on a desert hike, you'd probably think it's kind of interesting, maybe bring it home with you. What you'd probably never guess is that it's actually an extremely rare mineral derived solely from an atomic bomb. It's called trinitite, and it formed during the Trinity bomb test in 1945. It's actually got microscopic pieces of the bomb itself suffused throughout it. Methuselah, the honey mushroom, trinitite, all anomalies that you could come face to face with and never know how strange they truly are. And that's just the stuff you can see. So many of the real world's anomalies are strange in ways the average person can't even comprehend. In 1964, astronomers Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson ran into something frustrating. They were using a hypersensitive antenna built to detect incredibly faint radio waves, but the results were contaminated with a low, steady noise 100 times louder than they were expecting. It seemed to be coming from nowhere, but it was also everywhere. It persisted day and night, no matter what they did to get rid of normal interference. They tried everything to get rid of it, but no matter what they did, the waveform remained. This frustrating aberration turned out to be the background hum of the universe itself. They were the first ever people to detect the leftover radiation from the Big Bang. Wilson and Penzias shared a Nobel Prize in Physics for this discovery in 1978. That's an incredible thing to just stumble across. It's also something that you would never know unless you knew enough already to know it. Which again has to make you wonder, how much stranger, how much more anomalous would the entire world seem if you just knew more about it? You probably see by now what I'm getting at here. We do technically live in a world of anomalies, which makes the impulse that drives all this fiction about anomalies kind of confusing, right? Why engage in all this make-believe about impossible things existing if there are impossible things all around you? I suppose that's the issue, isn't it? There are anomalies all around you, but without the right knowledge, you can't even see them. SCP-3199 is a terrifying creature even to think about. According to its containment protocol, a tissue sample of this thing shows a combination of human, chicken, chimpanzee, stoat, mussel, and adder DNA. Its cervical vertebrae are made of cartilage, allowing it to twist its neck almost 360 degrees. It eats its prey by liquefying them from the inside out, dissolving everything, including organs, tooth, and bone. It reproduces by vomiting up a nearly indestructible egg while screaming in anguish, and can do this an unlimited number of times until it runs out of space in its vicinity. The only way they've managed to contain it is to encase it completely in a solid block of resin. Oh, and did I mention there are more than one of them? At the time of writing, there are at least 6. Unlike the honey mushroom, trinitite, Methuselah, or cosmic background radiation, if you ran into this thing, you would know there's something anomalous about it immediately. It is a complete departure from your model of reality. You wouldn't need an expert to tell you that its existence upended everything humanity thought it knew about the world. It would be obvious. The same goes for most real-world cryptids. A run-in with Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster or Mothman would also probably make you feel this way. Even the Montauk Monster would feel like an obvious departure from normality, until an expert told you that it was just a dead raccoon. It's also true for ghosts and aliens and psychic powers and cursed objects. You get why an object like the Anguished Man is anomalous. Paintings aren't supposed to wail in the night like that. Even if this world is technically full of anomalies, I get the allure of more obvious ones, like all of these. I imagine that, for most humans, everyday life feels routine, reliable, ordinary, often suffocatingly so. Sure, cosmic radiation from the Big Bang is interesting in theory, but it's probably not going to change how everyday life feels. Now, if it were from aliens or something, that would feel exciting. Encountering Bigfoot on a hike, seeing a ghost, those things would change your world. I think, on some level, all humans crave the sense of magic, of wonder that comes with the undermining of their ordinary world. You want to believe that there are things out there that can call your world into question, that there's still something left for you to discover. It feels like, in days gone by, you could walk out your front door and in any direction there was something new and unexplained. Back when maps still had space for monsters. Now there's science and the internet, a surplus of explanation, and what feels like a deficit of mystery. I think that's the fantasy central to all of this. Cryptozoology, paranormal investigation, conspiracy theories, SCP, no sleep, Gravity Falls. You want the mystery. You want the discovery. And you don't want to have to get a PhD to find it. The things beyond understanding, the anomalies that captivate you the most, are, paradoxically, also the ones you can understand. Remember at the start of the video when I suggested that, despite the danger, some part of you wants to encounter these things? I meant it to sound a little freaky. There's a certain connotation that comes with this fantasy. People who chase anomalies are often depicted as crackpots and weirdos, even in fiction where the viewer knows they're right. And, to be fair, determining that something is true when you don't have the evidence to make that claim is literally a break with reality. To approach the idea of flat Earth or psychic vampires with any certainty before actually confirming those things is either a sign of psychosis or just lying. But that's different, I think, than what cryptozoologists and paranormal investigators are doing. I think it's even different for most conspiracy theorists. Most of these people aren't bending reality to fit their whims. They're playing in a gray area, the place between certainty and the slightest sliver of possibility. Maybe it's crazy to decide with 100% certainty that something is true before you have any evidence. But it's not crazy to want your world to be upset. It's not crazy to long for that kind of discovery, that kind of magic. It's not crazy to search, starry-eyed, full of belief, knowing full well you'll probably never find it, for the anomalous. Although, on occasion, you do sort of feel like you're finding it. Actually, with the amount of fiction I read, I get that feeling surprisingly often. There's one book in particular I found a few years back that just is hard to believe exists. It's called Imagica, and it was written by Clive Barker, the guy who came up with Hellraiser. It is, bar none, one of the weirdest pieces of fiction I have ever consumed. Here's an entire fictional cosmos with a phallus, a uterus, with extra-dimensional ethereal ovaries. It sounds ridiculous when you say it like that, but I promise you, it's so good. So good, in fact, we made an entire exclusive video just gushing about it. Actually, we've made a lot of exclusive stuff like this. We have videos about the morphology of angels, how Dune straddles the line between science fiction and fantasy, about artificial life as a magic system. We even have an entire original documentary series about some of our favorite authors and the landscapes of their minds. It's called Worldsmiths, and to this day, it is one of the things I am most proud of. The only reason we were able to do all of that is because we sort of have our own streaming platform. Not we as in Foundry, but we as in indie creators. I don't know if you know this yet, but a bunch of us have sort of banded together to create a place for projects like Worldsmiths. It's called Nebula, and it is just full of big, incredible projects by some of your favorite creators. Worldsmiths is just one of countless other original projects over there. Lindsay Ellis alone has 7 different hour-long specials there. Abby Thorne, the creator of Philosophy Tube, directed an actual feature-length film called Dracula's Ex-Girlfriend. Did you know Tirzu has an original series where he explains the behaviors of different animals as if he's playing as them in a video game? I didn't. This is Nebula. It's where we put the best versions of all our stuff. No ads, no sponsor spots, no holding back. You can even watch our videos early there. See this? This is next week's video. People are already watching it right now. Normally, Nebula is around $6 a month, but if you use our link go.nebula.tv/TaleFoundry, you can get it for just $36 a year, which is only $3 a month. Or if you don't want to subscribe, you can also get a lifetime membership. Pay $300 one time and then never again. No matter how big Nebula gets, how prestigious its projects, you will always have access. Again, visit go.nebula.tv/TaleFoundry to get Nebula for just $3 a month or $300 one time for your entire life. Nebula is just so good. Couldn't ask for a better home for our content. I hope you'll give it a look. Anyway, that's all for this one. Thanks for watching and keep making stuff up. I'll see you next week. Bye.